Hey everyone, I was teaching class a couple weeks ago and I had a student ask me a question about getting higher resolution. So she was wondering how to get bigger prints and she wanted to upgrade her camera. And I told her some options that she had. And one of the options that she never considered was to use photo merges to get bigger prints at times because she didn't need to get bigger prints all the time. She just said that every once in a while she's at a scene and she has an idea to print it really big on a wall. And what can she do? She thought she had to go buy a new camera. And my answer was to her was, hey, you can do a photo merge, you can do a panorama, and then you could stitch that photo together. That's one reason that you might want to use panoramas. You also don't have to use Fujifilm to use this method. You can use anything, but I'm using a Fujifilm-based system, so that's what I'm going for. And so if you want to get bigger resolution, anybody, any camera can do this. Another reason why you might want to do this method is to get a little bit more of the scene, even if you don't care about the resolution. So let's say I take out my Fuji X100V. It's locked in at 35 millimeters. I didn't get into any kind of, it doesn't change lenses out. So you're just locked in there. And I'm out in the scene and I wanted to get something a little bit bigger. So for instance, something like this scene is a really cool, big, dramatic sky, some neat shadows, this cool big tree. If I was stuck with one lens, it would have been something like this, which is still a decent photo, but not even close to something like this. So this was just stitching some photos together. You also might want to get a photo where you just don't have quite enough room. So I was taking this of a abandoned schoolhouse in Nebraska, and I had these two cool trees framing the abandoned house, but with my one frame, my X100V just couldn't capture everything. So I just quickly made a frame to the left, I made a frame to the right, and I threw it together to get what I wanted to get out of the picture. It's not really, I didn't do this because of the megapixels, but it's pretty nice. I did use this a lot with my Fuji XT1. The XT1 was only 16 megapixels. They were a beautiful 16 megapixels, but that was a little lower. And so I would stitch photos quite a bit to be able to get some cool photos that I could print a little bit bigger. I'm also using this strategically or with like some pre-visualization. So I'm out there at this Trans Am. It's an amazing Trans Am. I love this spot. This lady said she would never sell it. She would just rather let it sit, which that's her Trans Am. She could do whatever she wants. But anyways, I had a wide angle. I had a 24 millimeter with me and the 16 to 55. So like a 24 to 70 or around there. And then I had my 80 millimeter macro. And what I wanted to do was compress the background quite a bit. So I chose to use the 80 millimeter macro, stood farther back, and shot a series of photographs where I could kind of get some of that compression. But I couldn't get it in one shot with the 80 millimeter macro. So there are strategic choices you can make to be able to get the photo you want. This is the photo right here. That's 181 megapixels. It's 16 photos put together. And I want to do a little quick tutorial on how you can do this in your house. Outside, you can go into your front lawn. I'm grabbing a camera real quick because I want to show you how I did this. So you're out in the scene and you see something cool, or you're just practicing down your block. And you want to do, for me, I usually try to put my camera vertically because you're going to get more resolution. You could take like 16 images that way. It might only take 4 maybe or 5 to do something like this horizontally, but you're going to get more resolution if you're shooting this vertically. Unless you do 2 rows of horizontal, then it'll even out a little bit. But I usually shoot vertically when I'm doing this. You're going to want to use a tripod, most likely. I don't use tripods almost ever. I'm getting starry nights. I might use a tripod. I will use a tripod. But other than that, I just don't like taking my tripod very many places. So tripods are good advice to use. You put your tripod on there and you take a series of photos, just rotating your tripod like this. So for this scene, I was in Devil's Nest, Nebraska. It totally looks like a different planet almost compared to the rest of Nebraska, like a different state. And there was no way to get one full shot to get the resolution I wanted. And so what I did is I used my XT4 in the 50 to 140. I zoomed in a little bit and I took a series of photos and then pushed them together for all that resolution. So what I did is I start to the left, you can start to the right, whatever, and I'm just shooting like this. I'm taking pictures all the way from my start to the finish. So the left side to the right side. And what I'm trying to do is keep a point of reference in each shot. So here's my the shots that I used. That's one of my first shots. And I'm kind of isolating different parts of the place. I'm looking at maybe this yellow bush or top of a tree out there. And I'll make sure that that's in the next photograph. Just like later on, I've got a couple cows here. I've got 3 photos with the cows, one on the right-hand side, then one a little bit to the left, and then that one cow's on the far left. And you just keep doing that. So for me, I took 16 shots from left to right. You're trying to keep your horizon level pretty straight as possible. So then Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever program you're using could actually merge them all together, and you get the benefits of a wider scene and more resolution. So what you do is once you do that, you're taking those photos, you put them in Lightroom, which we're going to use. We're going to select them all. I'm going to right click and go to Photo Merge, and I'm going to choose Panorama Merge. Most of the time, spherical works perfectly. Cylindrical is a different method, and I almost never use it. And I've actually, I don't think I've ever used perspective. So I just mostly focus on spherical, and it's creating a preview. We'll cut through this here in a second. All right, now we have a preview. It did a really great job of stitching this thing together. There are a couple options. You don't have to do too much. It's pretty awesome if you line things up correctly and you give the program something to work with. When you're doing this manually, especially when you're not using a tripod, you'll get some of these white areas, which is just where you put your camera up or down a little bit too much. And you could fill that. I can click Fill Edges, and it's going to do Content Aware Fill and just try to match everything up. For this kind of photo, it does a really good job. There's a couple repetition things in there. If I wanted to, I can go fix those in Photoshop. Or I could just go to Auto Crop, and it's going to crop everything together. Once I click Merge, it's going to come out, and you're going to get a big giant photo like this one. It creates a DNG file, and it also knows it's a Fuji DNG file. So one of the cool things you could do is you still have access to all of our JPEG, the Fujifilm simulations. So I can go to Classic Negative, for instance, and turn it into the Classic Negative, or I can do the Acros. Classic Chrome has access to all the amazing stuff that Fuji still offers. And this is pretty cool. 181 megapixels. I can see details that I would normally not be able to see. So like, for instance, this one, I could see into this really kind of creepy but awesome. These dead trees are lined into this valley though. I would love to go down there and see what's down there. There's like some kind of wild stuff happening down there, I'm sure. But it's pretty cool. And then I think this cow over here, that one, I'm pretty sure he's looking at me. It's fun to go through the scene and find all the details, all the different things that are in there that are just really cool to see. And if I wanted to print this really big, it would be an amazing print. So that is my quick tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. If you have questions, I'm still new to all this YouTube stuff. You know, I was a teacher for 18 years teaching photography, and we would spend time in the classroom doing a lot of this stuff together. So hopefully what you can do, if you're not sure how to do this or if you haven't done this, go out and try what I just said, take those photos, put them together, and then ask me questions. Just put some comments below and I'll get back to you and we'll make this awesome stuff happen. So have a wonderful day and get out there and take some photos.